Hey, what's up, guys? So Bitcoin broke through $50,000 today. This comes after the huge weekly candle close that we had yesterday. For the past month or so, I've been saying whichever direction this breaks, whether it be down or above this resistance area, it would determine the next directional move. And we had a very strong looking weekly candle right here. And we're seeing follow through now into this 50K region. So this region between 53K and 49K is essentially the last resistance zone before Bitcoin would test up to all-time highs. So what we would like to see at this point is weekly closes in this zone and then ultimately a weekly close above 53K. If we can get a weekly close above 53K, then it's very likely that we're going to test up to this 64K, 69K all-time high area zone. And it would be, out of the norm. And I get that. A lot of people were like saying like, well, we haven't had the halving. This has never happened before the halving. And I agree. But I also think like if you look back at the bear market, there was norms that were broken. We had never gone below the previous all-time high. Well, in last cycle, we ended up going below 20K, which was out of the norm. We went below moving averages. I believe it was the 200 weekly. I'm not entirely sure, but there was norms that were broken to the downside. So it's not surprising to see norms broken to the upside. And I know a lot of people are also saying that a pullback is needed, and I would tend to agree, but I think there's a counter argument to this, and it would be if you look at the bear market historically in crypto bear markets. If you go back to 2017, there was relief rallies. There was opportunities to get out right here, right here, right here, right here. These were all like massive. This was from 6K all the way up to 12K, 6K all the way up to 10K. We never got that in the bear market. This was a vicious bear market. There was no relief rallies. We had this one, but this was like very choppy. It was from 34K up to 43K, then 34K up to 48K. That was the only like way to get out. There was no, it was just straight downside. This choppiness, which was mostly FTX driven, um, and then just straight down again. And then we had this. This was very minimal. Like we never had like any relief rallies on the way down. So it's kind of like karma or, things balancing that on the way up. We're not seeing these, massive pullbacks. We've mostly only seen it's, 20% pullbacks like right here, right here, right here. But we haven't seen that huge pullback. And it could just be because on the way down, we didn't have any relief rallies. And on the way up, we're not seeing any pullbacks. It was brutal for the Bulls on the way down, and it's been brutal for the Bears. A lot of people have been waiting for like spots to re-enter, and they just haven't, been given. And there was no spots on the way down to really get out. Um, so it could just be, something like that going on. And this could also just be the market maturing, market structure changing. And I'm not going to say that we're not going to have significant pullbacks. I would fully expect it. And I think it's likely. It would be more surprising if we don't get massive pullbacks on the way up, but currently we haven't seen one. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. As far as the ETF stuff, the flows are coming in, and I said this back in December. The confirmation of the Bitcoin approval, ETF approval, has been priced in for the past 2 months. It's still not done. The institutional flows into the ETF had not, because they can't be without an actual ETF. Is the confirmation of the Bitcoin ETF price in? Mostly. Is the Bitcoin ETF price in? No. And I also said this, the confirmation of the Bitcoin ETF can be priced in and has been being priced in for 2 months or the past few months. The ETF itself cannot be priced in because in order for it to be priced in, the large participants would need an ETF to buy the price or buy it to price it in. They can't yet because there is no ETF. My thought process on the ETF has remained the same. If the big players could have priced this in, they wouldn't have needed an ETF. The reason for the ETF was because they needed a way to get in. So, just logically thinking, right? If there was no ETF and they had no way in, then how can it be priced in? It couldn't. It couldn't. Yet most people on Twitter were calling it a sell the news event. They were calling it a failure. They were calling it saying it was priced in, everything was priced in, the ETF is priced in. It wasn't. There was no way to price it in. I mean, if you really think that millionaires, billionaires, hedge funds, institutions, pension funds were going on Coinbase and Binance and um, any other Gemini or whatever crypto exchange and buying spot Bitcoin like down here and up, on the way up, that wasn't happening. They were not going to risk, any money custodying it themselves. They needed the ETF. That's why the ETF was, given. And think about it logically. If all these people could have bought, right, then they wouldn't have needed the ETF. There would have been no point for the ETF, right? The reason for the ETF was so they can get in. Without the ETF, they couldn't. So they couldn't go on Coinbase. They couldn't go on all these exchanges. Yeah, half of crypto Twitter basically was telling you, sell the news. It's priced in. It's gonna crash. Blah 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 blah. I mean, I don't know. And I stated it multiple times, um, as many of you guys know. So, and not many people held that view, and it looks like it was correct. And actually, at this point, even if it was a sell the news event, right? Let's say we rolled over here, it's too late. Like we just broke the new highs a month after the ETF, so that's too late. And someone else was arguing with me about something about the sell the news thing, because a lot of people are getting a little emotional about it now because they were on the wrong side. This was sell the news. This is the Coinbase futures launch in 2017. We dropped from 20K to 10K within weeks. We didn't go up to new all-time highs and then roll over or anything like that. That was the top. It was a sell the news event. Then if you go back to actually this cycle right here, 2021, same thing. This was the Coinbase IPO. It launched on the very top the same day, and we went from 64K down to 30K. That was a sell the news event. This is not a sell the news. We already broke the new highs. We didn't break the new highs here. We didn't break the new highs in 2017. It didn't happen. It took years to recover. It took 3 years basically to get above those highs. So this wasn't a sell the news event. It was impossible for it to be the sell the news event because the ETF could not be bought by BlackRock. BlackRock customers and clients could not buy the Bitcoin ETF to dump it on people without the ETF. They needed the ETF to do this. My mind's blown just overall by people getting this wrong, but I don't know. It's just, I don't even know what to say. Like, I'm not going to really talk about it anymore because it's over with. Like, it doesn't matter what happens now. This was not a sell the news event. End of story. Doesn't matter because other sell the news events didn't break to all-time highs, or new local highs. I'm going to talk about the total market cap. Same thing. We've been saying this for a while. This is looking the same as this breakout. We discussed this in the last video. This is the first cycle back in 2016. Breakout, retest for a while, and then bull market starts. Breakout, retest for a while, bull market starts. Breakout, retest, bull market probably starts. I'm going to go to total of 3. If I can find it, let me see. It looks like a breakout, so we'll see how the weekly closes. We just want to get higher weekly closes, but overall, it looks like it's starting. It's, a lot of people it's hard for people to accept it after what happened last year and in 2022, but it's one of those things where the sooner you realize it, the more beneficial it will be. And it's still early, in my opinion, right? We're just at the start. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if Bitcoin can start getting closes above in this area and then above 53K. If for whatever reason we ever close below 44K at this point, it would be very damaging. So just keep that in mind. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but just keep that in mind.